Okay, once again, this is Ron White, and we'll be discussing Revolver weapons maintenance today. We'll go over a basic end-user field strip, so to speak, although there is no stripping involved, of the Revolver. Now, this happens to be a Smith & Wesson 38 Special 6-round revolver. We'll discuss that in a minute. What I have laid out here are the tools, materials that you'll need in order to complete your maintenance on the weapon properly. Obviously, you're going to need some cleaners. This right here is called gun scrubber, and it is a synthetic safe action cleaner. It'll help loosen up contaminants and debris, carbon fouling, any type of brass or copper that might have stripped off into the barrel or the chamber areas of the weapon. It's a form of a solvent that you'll want to use in order to help break down all of the fouling in the weapon after you fire it. You're also going to need a cleaner. This right here is called Impro 7, and this particular is a foaming, which means when you pump this button right here, it'll come out foaming. You'll see that in a minute. I recommend this cleaner. It's an excellent cleaner. It does a really good job, and it helps condition the metal of the weapon every time you use it to help limit how much contamination and carbon will stick to the metal. So that's a good thing to have. We'll be using that. You're also going to want some CLP. It's a cleaner, lubricant, and preservative or protectant. Basically a good gun oil. This is break-free CLP. We'll be using this also, so you'll need some of that. Then you should have some form of precision oiler. This has a needle on it, as you can see right here, so that you can get into a very small specific location and give one tiny drop of oil to your actions areas, and I'll show you what you'll do with that here in a little while. But you'll definitely want one of these in your cleaning kit. You need to use it on all of your firearms. All right. We'll also be using a bore scope, which is just a light to see down inside the chambers and in the barrel area or the bore. Obviously, you'll need some patches. These are just little cotton or cloth squares of fabric that you utilize to punch the bore or the cylinder area. This is a Glock cleaning rod. It comes with all Glocks. I have a bunch of them laying around, so I use them a lot. But what you do is you take this cleaning rod and you see the little eyelet right here, and you slide the patch through the eyelet and grab it on the other end, just like so, and then you pull it through the barrel or the chamber area, and you work it back and forth, and it'll tend to start cleaning the chamber or bore area that you're trying to clean. So you'll need the patches and a cleaning rod of some sort with an eyelet attachment. This is a bore mop, which is a good thing to have. It's cotton or cloth attached to a adapter that connects to your cleaning rod, and you can use this to clean out your bore as well, and or to come back and put a very light coat of oil into the bore to help prevent corrosion. So we'll be using that. You're going to need some form of brushes here, either a basic regular toothbrush, that's what this is, or you can get what's called an AP brush or all-purpose brush. And you can see it's kind of designed and formed, has this little divot here so you can scrub on barrels. But these you can pick up at any gun cleaning supply location as well. These are good to have. But like I said, you can use the toothbrush as well. Okay. You might need a brass bristle brush. This will help you in locations that have harder more difficult to get out carbon deposits. And it's a little more stiff. It is a metal brush, but this is brass, okay? You can use brass on there very lightly to try and scour away any carbon that might be built up that is difficult for you to get off of the weapon. So you might need that as well. Alright, and then finally we have this, we also have a nylon bore brush here that we're going to be using. You can use copper or any combination of different steel or metal bore brushes. I prefer using the nylon, and it works just fine. So you'll see how that works. Once again, that's attached to one of those Glock cleaning rods. And we have the bore snake here. Okay, it's called a snake because obviously it kind of looks like a snake, right? So you see those shiny parts in there, right here and right here. These are copper embedded bore brushes. What you do is you lube up the front leading edge of this, and then you pull it through, and with one patch or one pass of this through the whole bore and barrel, you're getting up to 100 times more cleaning area and more cleaning done than, say, a regular patch alone. I've been using these for several years, and they work excellent. Remember, at minimum, you want to pass this through the bore of the barrel, I would say 5 times. And then, of course, inspect the bore or barrel and chamber areas to ensure that you're getting all of the contaminants out of there. But this is called a bore snake, and it's an excellent tool to have as well. This happens to be a 9mm caliber, if you will, or size. But obviously the 9mm will work in the 38 as well. So we'll be using this a little bit later on. Alright, so first and foremost, whenever you're cleaning weapons, you want to make sure that your weapon is empty. We're going to do that in a second, but you want to make sure that there is absolutely no ammunition in your cleaning area. Okay, if you see everything you can see on the video, there's no ammunition over here. So that's first and foremost. Make sure there's absolutely no ammunition around your cleaning area. Then you need to move to clear the weapon, obviously. It's a revolver. You pick the weapon up. We're going to treat all firearms as if loaded at all times, right? We're going to keep that trigger finger flat on the frame, off the trigger. We're going to keep the weapon pointed in a safe direction. Safe direction is defined as the direction wherein if a round was to be discharged, there would be absolutely no physical harm to anybody and only possible minimal property damage. Okay? So, keeping that finger flat on the frame, off the trigger, we're going to go ahead and hit the crane latch release. We're going to open up the cylinder. We're going to look into the cylinder and ensure that it's empty. And it is. Okay? So we have rendered this weapon complete safe. We have a complete safe weapon at this point. Now we can go ahead and proceed to start cleaning. Alright? So, what you can do is you can start with blasting the weapon down with the gun scrubber. Okay? Which is generally what I do, but you'll end up using a lot of this stuff. And this is $10 a can. Okay? So, might get a little expensive if you have multiple weapons you have to clean. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to bistep this process right now because I have a whole bunch of guns to clean, and I need to conserve. So we'll use this in just a moment. Actually, once we get done cleaning, we're going to come back with the gun scrubber to blast off debris and the contaminants that we just scrubbed off of there. Okay, but this is an excellent chemical to use, or solvent, to aid in cleaning your weapon. Okay. One thing before we start cleaning, you need to remember that on a revolver, down in this area over here is where the action is, right? It's all inside the body or frame of the weapon. Do not blast any type of solvent down into the firing pinhole or down into the backside where you have access underneath the hammer. Do not spray solvent in there unless you are competent enough and know how to take this side plate off to get back into the action to lube it. Because if you spray solvent down in there, it's going to strip all the lubrication off of the action, and you're going to have inherent problems with the weapon. Basically, it might lock up on you because the revolver is very specific. It has to have some lubrication inside that action. And when you spray the solvent down into the frame, it'll strip all the lubrication off, and you need to get back in there. And the only way to do that is taking off this side plate and getting in there. That is above and beyond the user level maintenance. So just avoid spraying solvent down into the action area and you should be good to go. Now, this area should be cleaned out ever so often. I would say minimum every 6 months. But it needs to be done by someone that's competent and knows what they're doing with the Revolver internals. Okay? So, let's go ahead and get started here. What we're going to do is we're going to start out with the foaming Impro 7 cleaner. And all you do is, with this foam is you just spray it on there. Okay? And you see it foaming. And you're just going to scrub the exterior. Just scrub it. Okay? Scrub everywhere you can get to. Scrub it vigorously. Okay? See I'm scrubbing here. Alright, you want to do the grips as well. Put a little bit out there. And just smear it around. And what you want to do is put some more on the other side and smear it around to let it start working and breaking everything down for you. What you want to do also is open up the cylinder and give a squirt into each of the chamber areas to let that start working in there. Now you also want to come back into the barrel and just put the tube at the end of the barrel and look at the other end, hold it to the front and look at the other end, and once you start seeing cleaner come out of there, you know that it's full. There we go. Alright, so you want to get it all over the weapon. Okay, like I said, do not intentionally spray anything directly down into here, but you can wipe some of the cleaner onto the face there. And now what will happen is it'll start working while you're cleaning other areas of the gun. So just get to scrubbing. Scrub vigorously. Okay? Scrub, scrub, scrub. Scrub it up, whatever. I mean, obviously you could do this with music, whatever type of music you like. Kind of keep you a little entertained while you're scrubbing. But I'm making a video, so I left the music out. Alright? So, just scrub all areas you can get to. Alright. Okay. Underneath. Scrub the leading edge of the muzzle here. And turn the weapon upside down like this with the barrel down, and just scrub inside here on the back side of the barrel, or the forcing cone, as it were. Scrub inside the frame. Okay, you're gonna need scrub down inside there. Then turn the weapon sideways, like so. Scrub in there. If you see, while you're scrubbing, if you see any carbon that's built up, it's not coming off with just a nylon brush. You're going to want to go ahead and move to your brass brush and lightly, ever so lightly, just lightly scrub the area until the carbon comes off. See, because what's going to happen is if too much carbon builds up in any one of these given areas, especially the areas that have tight tolerances, the weapon's going to have a malfunction or just fail to function altogether. And you don't want that to occur, do you? Alright, so I'm going to come back with this around the forcing cone. And I'll just give a light scrub with the brass brush. Okay. Then I'm going to go around the cylinder real good, right? Make sure that that's all scrubbed, which we got most of it earlier. Turn it over, scrub the face of the cylinder. Okay. Now what you might see happen, what you need to do actually is press the ejector rod up, and you need to clean under the star extractor real good. That's where carbon and contamination can build up. So you want to ensure that that's as clean as you can get it. Rotate it around. Scrub it out. Alright. You also, on the same note, you want to scrub underneath the star extractor itself, right, on this back surface. So scrub it, rotate it, scrub it some more. Okay. Make sure you got that real clean. Once you're satisfied that that's clean, move on to another area. Scrub the front side of the cylinder. Okay. Scrub the crane. That's this section that lifts the cylinder, right? Scrub the crane. Scrub the ejector. Okay. Now you'll notice on the front side of the cylinder here there are blast marks. Okay. From the actual fire and flame and the carbon and all the contaminants. They get out here and they start building up over time. The only real way to get that is to use either a Scotch-Brite pad, one of those green scrubby pads. If your weapon has a real like satin finish or a specific finish other than maybe stainless, you're probably not going to want to do that because it will deteriorate the finish. On the stainless guns here, it's not a problem to use your brass brush and just lightly scrub the face. Just lightly scrub it and get most of that carbon and buildup off of there. Okay? Once you're satisfied with it, you can proceed to scrub, cleaning something else. These are range guns, so I'm not super particular about the blast marks on the front of the cylinder, but if your own personal weapon, you may not want it on there. It just doesn't look nice, and over time it can build up, and it could cause a possible problem. So the premise is you want this surface to be as flat as possible because it mates up with the forcing cone, and if there's any carbon built up on it, too much of it will prohibit the cylinder from being closed, so you want to keep that in mind. Alright, so you just scrub it lightly. Alright, now that we've done that, we've scrubbed pretty much the entire gun. What we're going to do is we're going to come back with this nylon brush. I'm going to put a little bit of the cleaner on it, and we're going to go into each one of these cylinder areas. Each one. Push it through, pull it out. You might want to do it about 3 times is usually what I do, and then you rotate to the next one. Okay, rotate to the next one. Remember, there's 6 cylinders, so. And the last one. Okay, now you need to be careful because this metal here and brass, as you go into the cylinder, if you're not keeping this bore brush centered, you can gouge into the cylinder, and you don't want to do that. So be careful when you're scrubbing the bore. Theoretically and technically, you should come in from this side. You should always try and keep the brush going in the direction of travel of the bullet. So you should put it in and then pull it out in this fashion like that. This is a nylon brush, so I'm not real particular about it, but you have to be aware of where these metal parts are and what they're doing while you're cleaning. Alright, so now we've scrubbed the chambers. What we're going to do is we're going to come and do the bore, or the barrel. I'm going to put some more cleaner on here. And we're just going to go in from the muzzle side here. I'm going to push it in there. Okay. Push it down the bore and then pull it out. Okay, so I did that 3 times as well. Now what we're going to do, off camera over here, I'm just going to blast this down with the gun scrubber. You'll hear it. But you want to do this either on a super absorbent area. I do it over a trash can that has a plastic bag in it so that I can take it out. Obviously, I'm in a well-ventilated area. From watching my first video, now you'll be watching the Revolver video. So you should always do this cleaning in a well-ventilated area. Make sure that you have a fan in the window, either sucking fresh air in or blowing the contaminated air out with another window open somewhere else to suck some fresh air in for you. But I'm going to go ahead and blast this Revolver down with the gun scrubber real quick.
We have building 18 according to school theory.
Okay, now that I've done that, I'm just going to lay it here and let it dry for a little bit. And once again, to reiterate from the first video, the semi-auto, or maybe you're seeing this out of order, I don't know. But I have rubber gloves on. You'll want rubber gloves on to protect your hands from the chemicals and solvents. So it's a good idea to have some rubber gloves. Also, I have some goggles on to protect my eyes from anything that might fly up and possibly harm my vision. So I want to keep that in mind. Alright, let me put this nozzle back onto this thing. And after I blasted it down, what I'm doing is I'm going to come back and I'm going to look for any obvious carbon or fouling that I've missed in my cleaning. I'm looking at all the surfaces. I'm looking underneath the star extractor to make sure everything looks good under there. I'm looking at the face of the star extractor. Looking at the face of the cylinders here. They look alright. And everything else appears to be good to go. One last thing you want to check though is check the bore. So put your bore light, inspection light in there, and if you look, if I can, okay, there we go. You can see the light down in there, and yeah, you can sort of see the rifling, right? What you do with your eyes, you look down through there, and you check to see if there's any clumps. You'll notice it, okay? If there's any clumps of anything in there, they don't belong there. You have to get them out. But if you don't see clumps, then you should be good to go. All right. So what you do is you come back with a cloth and dry off any excess solvent that might be present. All right. Now I'm also looking down through the cylinders there. I don't know if you can see in there. Yeah, you can see down through there. And once again, there too, also you're looking for any clumps or any contamination inside the cylinder walls that might prohibit the free movement of the shells being inserted into it and ejected out of it. If they're clean, just hold it up to the light, kind of look at it, make sure they're clean. If they're good to go, then you're all good to go. At this point, this gun is roughly ready to go at this point. The key to the Revolver is just scrubbing the entire exterior of the weapon, punching the bore, okay, punching each cylinder area, ensuring that you clean underneath the star extractor, both on the face of the cylinder and on the back side of the star extractor itself. Over here, see, on the back side. Okay. Once you've done that, and you've ensured there are no carbon or deposits built up, then you're pretty much good to go as far as the cleaning of the weapon. Now what we have to do is the proper follow-up lubrication. Okay. On the Revolver, there are a couple key points that you need to put a couple light drops of oil, but you need to make sure that that solvent is completely dried up. If the solvent's not dried up, it's going to eat away at the oil, and actually you could end up going and lubing it and putting it away, and then the solvent eats up all the oil, and then you end up having a dry gun, which is not a good thing. So I'm just doing a final wipe down on it, making sure it's all dry. Alright. Okay. I'm going to use the mop. Okay. I'm not going to use the bore snake because we already punched the bore. But the mop, what you're going to do is just take the... Let's see if this thing's open. No, it's not. So let's see if we can open it up. Let's get some pliers here and grab this. Okay. Take that off there. Put this up here. Put the cap back on there. Open it up. What you're going to do is just take a couple of light drops here. Okay. And you want to make sure that there's oil all the way around on this bore brush. Okay. Alright. That looks good to go. So what you're going to do is you're going to run it through each cylinder area. Okay. Run it through, back and forth, 6 times, right? Run it through, run it through, run it through. Okay, and you may or may not want to put some lube into the cylinder areas. It's not really critical. Some people might say, "No, don't do that." I put a little light lube just in case. It helps for the loading and unloading of the shells, and as long as it's not an overly heavy coating, you should be good to go. And then of course we run it down through the bore of the weapon. Okay, run it down, run it back, and then what you want to do is look down in there, once again with the bore light. Okay, oh. There we go. Yeah. Alright, let's take a look. Alright. Okay, and what you're looking for is a very light coating of oil into the bore. It's going to help protect from corrosion, and because the inside of the bore is raw steel, so you need to protect it so that it doesn't start to corrode. Alright, now the bore is punched, cylinders are punched. We'll move on to the precision oiling. And on a revolver, you want to depress the ejector rod and come down to the base of the ejector rod where it meets the cylinder and put one small drop, and then work the ejector. And that'll work its way around, giving you a smooth motion on the ejector. Okay? Alright. You might want to hit the crane latch, you might not, it just depends on your particular weapon. You may put a small drop on the front, okay, where there's any interaction or movement on the rotation. Maybe one on the detent pin for the ejector up here. Put it down at the base of it and drop it in there just to relube it. Okay. And like I said, outside of that, you don't have access to lube anything else on the weapon. Even if you were to cock the hammer, you might be able to put a light drop on the sear or on the hand, but there's really not much down in there you can get to. So you want to leave that to a qualified gunsmith or somebody that knows how to disassemble the revolver, or at least take the side plate off and properly lube the weapon. But at this point, the weapon is clean and ready for the function check. Alright, now open the cylinder again, check the weapon, ensure that it's completely empty, making it a complete safe weapon. On a revolver in a safe direction, you want to do a function check, which will consist of squeezing the trigger in double action mode 6 times. Okay, that worked. You should be good to go. Try it in single. Okay. Alright, what you're looking for is, as you cock this hammer, is the cylinder rotating? Is it locking into place? Does the hammer go home when you squeeze the trigger? In double action, you're checking to see that the cylinder is rotating and locking. Okay, see that? It's rotating and it's locking. And then you might want to check your crane latch release here and ensure that it is functioning properly also. On the leading edge of the ejector rod, there's a little spring compression nipple there. You might want to put a light, just tiny little drop of oil down in there to ensure that it's functioning properly as well. Okay, but once you've done your lube, go back and once again wipe up any excess. You don't want excessive oil, obviously, on the exterior of this weapon because you need to handle the weapon. Excessive oil will also lead to contamination and fouling buildup, which you want to avoid as well. Alright, go ahead and close the cylinder, give it one final wipe. I usually run a cloth on the back side of the trigger, back up in there, and one on the leading edge of the trigger, right up in there. Alright, well, once that is done, you have completed the user level maintenance on the Revolver. Remember, if you fail to maintain the weapon properly, the weapon will not maintain you in that moment of need.